Standing outside Mrs. Patterson's kitchen window, I could hear every word of my mother's latest character assassination. It was a familiar routine Thursday afternoon coffee with the neighbor, where my life choices became the entertainment. "My daughter is such a disappointment," she said with that exaggerated sigh she'd perfected. 31 years old and still playing with computers all day. No husband, no children, living in that tiny apartment downtown. Tiny apartment. If only she knew. I'd stopped by to drop off the mortgage payment I'd been secretly covering for the past 6 months. Mom and Dad thought their mysterious payment assistance program from the bank was some kind of government benefit for seniors. In reality, it was me preventing them from losing the house they'd lived in for 25 years. She could have been anything, Mom continued. Doctor, lawyer, teacher. Instead she wastes her time with those silly computer games. Computer games. That's what she called the software development company I'd built from scratch. The one that had revolutionized mobile gaming and generated over $60 million in revenue last year. "At least your daughter is a nurse," Mom said to Mrs. Patterson. "That's a real career. Mine just sits in front of a screen all day." I decided I'd heard enough and slipped the envelope through their mail slot. The check inside would cover this month's mortgage, property taxes, and utilities, just like the previous 6 months. They'd never know it came from their disappointing daughter. But last week everything changed. Last week she called. "I need somewhere to stay, your dad left." The call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my home office reviewing code for our latest game release, when my phone buzzed with Mom's contact. "Sophie? It's Mom." Her voice was different. Smaller. The confident disapproval I was used to had been replaced by something I'd never heard before. Desperation. "Mom? What's wrong?" "It's almost midnight. Your father left." I set down my coffee and gave her my full attention. "What do you mean left?" "He moved out this afternoon. Took his clothes, his golf clubs, everything. Left a note saying he needed space to figure things out." "Mom, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" "I don't know what to do, Sophie. I can't afford the house payments on my own. My part-time job at the library barely covers groceries." If only she knew that I'd been covering those house payments for months. "Where will you go?" "I was hoping. I know we haven't always seen eye to eye about your choices, but I need somewhere to stay while I figure this out. Just temporarily." "Of course, Mom. You can stay with me." "Thank you, sweetheart. I'll drive over in the morning. Actually, let me send you my address. I moved a few months ago." "Moved? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never asked about my life unless it was to criticize it. It's downtown. I'll text you the address and parking instructions." After hanging up, I looked around my 4,200 square foot penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. This was going to be interesting. The next morning I was reviewing acquisition proposals for 2 smaller gaming studios when the concierge called. "Miss Chin, there's a Margaret Williams here to see you. Should I send her up?" "Yes, thank you." I walked to the private elevator and pressed the button to bring it to the 47th floor. Through my security system, I could see Mom in the lobby, looking around with wide eyes at the marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and abstract art pieces that decorated the Meridian Tower's entrance. The Meridian Tower was the most expensive residential building in the city. Only 12 units occupied the top 6 floors, each selling for between $8 and $15 million. I'd bought mine 18 months ago, paying cash as a celebration of my company's first major acquisition. She took the elevator to the 47th floor of downtown's most expensive building. I watched through the security monitor as Mom stepped into the elevator, checking the paper with my address twice. Her expression was confused as the elevator rose higher and higher, past the 10th floor, past the 20th, past the 30th. When it finally stopped at 47, I could see her looking at the button panel as if there had been some mistake. When the doors opened to my penthouse, I was waiting in the foyer when the elevator doors slid open. Mom stepped out slowly, her overnight bag clutched in one hand, her mouth slightly open as she took in the soaring ceilings, the Italian marble flooring, and the massive windows that framed the city below. "Sophie." "Hi, Mom. Come in." She didn't move. This is your apartment?" "It's home." "But how? Why don't you come in? I'll make coffee and we can talk." She followed me through the foyer into the main living area, her head swiveling to take in every detail. The custom furniture, the original artwork, the kitchen island that cost more than most people's cars. Sophie, I don't understand. How can you afford this place? The same way I afford everything else. I work. But you work with computers. I own a software development company. You own it. I founded it 7 years ago. We develop mobile games and entertainment software. She sank into one of my white leather sofas, still clutching her bag. Games. Our most popular game has been downloaded over 200 million times. We have 43 employees and offices in 3 cities. I had no idea. Because you never asked. She flinched at that, but it was true. In all the years I'd been building my company, growing my team, and establishing myself in the industry, she'd never once inquired about the specifics of my work. I thought you were just playing around with computers. I was playing around with computers when I was 12. I've been running a business since I was 24. I walked to the kitchen and started making coffee, giving her time to process. Through the reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, I could see her looking around with new eyes. Sophie, this place must cost more than most people make in a year. How much more? I turned to face her. Mom, do you really want to know? Yes. The mortgage on this penthouse is $28,000 a month. Her face went white. $28,000? Per month. I don't have a mortgage. I paid cash. She stared at me for a long moment. You paid cash for a multimillion-dollar apartment? $8.4 million to be exact. 8.4. She couldn't finish the sentence. I brought her a cup of coffee and sat across from her. Mom, I've been trying to tell you about my success for years, but you were never interested in hearing about it. I just thought, when you didn't go to medical school, when you didn't get married, you thought I was wasting my life. Yes. What if I told you that my company is worth over $100 million? I'd say that's impossible. I pulled out my phone and showed her our company website, Pixel Dream Studios. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the list of games we'd developed, the awards we'd won, the press coverage we'd received. This is your company? I'm the founder and CEO. But these games, I've heard of some of these. My friends' grandchildren play them. Probably. We have games in the top 10 downloads in 47 countries. She continued scrolling, her expression shifting from disbelief to something approaching awe. Sophie, I had no idea. I thought you were struggling. Why would you think that? Because you don't drive a fancy car, you don't wear expensive clothes. Because I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I built this company because I love what I do, not to impress people. But why didn't you tell us? I tried to. Every time I mentioned a business milestone or a new contract, you'd change the subject or make a comment about how I should focus on finding a husband instead. She set down her coffee cup with shaking hands. I'm a terrible mother. You're not terrible. You're just limited in your perspective. Limited. You grew up in a generation where success for women looked very different. Marriage, children, traditional careers. You couldn't see that I was successful because my success didn't fit your template. So you've been hiding all of this? I haven't been hiding anything. I just stopped trying to share it with people who weren't interested. She looked around the penthouse again, this time taking in details she'd missed before. The awards on the bookshelf, the framed magazine covers featuring me and my team, the photographs from industry conferences and product launches. Sophie, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? The question caught me off guard. What? Are you happy? Living alone in this beautiful place, running your company, having all this success. I thought about it for a moment. Most of the time, yes. I love my work, I love my team, I love the problems we solve and the entertainment we create. But I do wish I had someone to share it with. Not a husband necessarily, but family who understood and celebrated what I've accomplished. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For what? For not being that person. For not supporting your dreams. For telling the neighbors you were a disappointment when you're actually what? Extraordinary. We sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both of us processing this shift in our relationship. Mom, can I ask you something now? Anything. Why did Dad really leave? She sighed deeply. Money. It's always been about money with him. He retired 2 years ago expecting to maintain the same lifestyle, but his pension and social security weren't enough. When I suggested cutting back on expenses, getting a smaller house, maybe selling the boat, he wasn't interested. He said I was being negative, that something would work out. Then last week he found out about some investment opportunity. His golf buddy's brother has some kind of business venture that needs investors. How much does he want to invest? Everything. He wanted to take out a second mortgage on the house, cash out his remaining retirement accounts, borrow against the life insurance policy. Mom, that sounds like a scam. I know. When I refused to sign the papers, he accused me of holding him back from financial freedom. So he left. He said he'd find someone who believed in his vision. I shook my head. I'm sorry he put you in that position. The truth is, Sophie, I'm relieved. I've been worried about our finances for months, but he wouldn't hear any practical solutions. What kind of practical solutions? Getting a smaller house, maybe moving to a retirement community, living within our actual means instead of the means we wish we had. Mom, can I tell you something? Yes. You haven't been living within your means for 6 months. What do you mean? I've been paying your mortgage, property taxes, and utilities. She stared at me. What? That payment assistance program you thought came from the bank? That was me. But how did you? I bought your mortgage from the bank when you fell behind on payments. You've been paying me, you just didn't know it. Sophie, why? Because despite everything, I love you. And I didn't want you to lose your home. She started crying then, not the delicate tears from earlier but deep, body-shaking sobs. I don't deserve this kindness. Mom, you're my mother. Of course you deserve it. But I've been so awful to you. So dismissive of everything you've worked for. You've been operating from your own fears and limitations. That doesn't make you awful, it makes you human. What kind of person doesn't know their own daughter is a millionaire? The kind of person who was so focused on what I wasn't doing that she couldn't see what I was accomplishing. Can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. But I do want things to be different going forward. Different how? I want you to be genuinely interested in my life. Not just as a way to find things to criticize, but because you actually care about what I'm doing. I do care. I've always cared, You just wanted me to care about different things. Yes. Mom, I'm never going to be the daughter who gets married in her 20s and has 3 kids and joins the PTA. But I am the daughter who built a company that employs dozens of people, creates entertainment that brings joy to millions, and generates enough wealth to take care of her family when they need it. That's more than enough. That's incredible. So no more telling the neighbors I'm a disappointment? She laughed through her tears. God, no. I'm going to tell everyone you're a CEO living in a penthouse downtown. And no more suggestions that I should give up my career to find a husband? Never again. Good. Now let me show you to your room. You can stay as long as you need to figure out your next steps. I led her down the hallway to the guest suite, which was larger than most people's entire apartments. It had its own bathroom, walk-in closet, and sitting area with windows overlooking the river. This is the guest room? This is your room for as long as you want it. Sophie, I can't afford to pay rent on a place like this. You're not a tenant, Mom. You're my mother. This is family. That evening we ordered dinner from my favorite Thai restaurant and ate it at the dining room table that seated 12 but had only ever hosted business meetings. It was the first meal my mother and I had shared without tension in years. Can I ask about your father? I said as we finished our pad thai. What about him? Do you want him to come back? She thought about it for a long time. The man I married 40 years ago, yes. The man who left last week, no. What's the difference? The man I married was content with what we had. He appreciated simple things, worked hard, and prioritized family over money. This new version of him is always chasing some get-rich-quick scheme, always convinced that he deserves more than he's earned. People change. They do. And sometimes not for the better. What will you do? I honestly don't know. I love him, but I can't live with someone who's willing to risk everything we've built for the chance of having more. You don't have to decide tonight. No, but I should probably decide soon. He's been calling. What does he say? That he's made a terrible mistake. That he wants to come home. That he'll forget about the investment opportunity. Do you believe him? Until the next opportunity comes along. We cleaned up dinner together and I showed her how to use the smart home system to control the lights, temperature, and entertainment system. She was fascinated by the technology, asking questions I'd never heard from her before. "How did you learn to do all this?" she asked as I demonstrated the voice commands. "Trial and error mostly. And a lot of reading. I mean the business side. How did you know how to start a company?" "I didn't. I just started building games and figured out the business part as I went along." "That must have been terrifying." "It was. But it was also exciting. Every day brought new challenges and new possibilities. I wish I'd been more supportive." "You can be supportive now." "How?" "By being genuinely interested. Ask me about my projects, meet my team, come to our product launches." "You'd want me there?" "Of course. You're my mother." "I'd like that very much." 3 months later, Mom was still living with me, but it was no longer a temporary arrangement. She'd filed for divorce from Dad, who had indeed invested everything in his golf buddy's brother's scheme and lost it all. She'd also started working part-time as my executive assistant, helping manage my calendar and correspondence. "Your 2 p.m. meeting is here," she said, poking her head into my home office. "Thanks, Mom. Can you set them up in the conference room?" "Already done. Coffee, water, and those chocolate croissants you like." She'd become invaluable, not just as an assistant but as someone who understood the business and could represent the company professionally. More importantly, she'd become the supportive mother I'd always wanted. "Oh, and Sophie?" "Yes. Mrs. Patterson called to see if you'd speak at her grandson's career day." "What did you tell her?" "That my daughter, the CEO, would be honored to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs." I smiled. Perfect answer. "I'm learning." "Yes, you are." The best part was watching her discover her own capabilities. At 63, she was learning new technologies, developing business skills, and finding purpose in work that mattered. She'd gone from being someone who defined herself entirely through her relationships to someone building her own identity and career. "Sophie," she said one evening as we were reviewing quarterly reports together, "I need to apologize again." "For what now?" "For wasting so many years being disappointed in you instead of being proud of you." "Mom, we've been through this." "I know, but I keep thinking about all the milestones I missed. All the celebrations we should have had. All the times I should have been your biggest cheerleader instead of your biggest critic." "We can't change the past." "No, but we can make sure the future is different." "It already is different." "Good. Because I have some ideas for the company Christmas party, and I think we should definitely get those chocolate fountains you were considering." I laughed. "Chocolate fountains it is. And maybe we should invite Mrs. Patterson. I've been telling her so much about the business, she's dying to see where her neighbor's daughter works." "The neighbor's daughter who used to be such a disappointment?" "The neighbor's daughter who turned out to be the most successful person on the block, and whose mother is finally smart enough to appreciate her." "I love you too, Mom." "I love you, Sophie. And I'm proud of you. I should have been saying that for years." "You're saying it now. That's what matters." As I watched her review our latest revenue projections with the same enthusiasm she'd once reserved for criticizing my life choices, I realized that sometimes the best family transformations happen when we stop trying to change each other and start trying to understand each other instead. And sometimes it takes losing everything to finally see what was right in front of you all along.